She's got it. If it's a change in the DNA, it's always going to be that way in the descendants of that cell. So if I'm a cell and you zap a protein to make me divide more than I should, I'll divide a couple of times. Eventually, as I get bigger and bigger, that mutant protein is going to get diluted. That altered protein will get diluted, and soon my daughter cells will not keep dividing. On the other hand, if you zap my DNA so that I divide and I make inappropriate proteins, and my offspring cells make inappropriate proteins, then each cell in the tumor can give rise to a tumor. So each cell can divide. All of its daughters divide. They inherit that cancer nest, that extreme growth. And so that each of the cells of the tumor will continue to grow when they shouldn't. So if it was just in the protein, the tumor would not get nearly as big. If you want to get a large tumor, the only way that's going to work is if it gets passed down to daughter cell to daughter cell. So every cell in the tumor is now going to be growing faster because that cell was made that way. It's inherited that ability. That's a weird, complicated idea, but I want to make sure I made it clear. Questions about that? All right, so let me write that up. So basically, must be mutation so it will be passed on to the daughter cells. Therefore, all cells in the tumor will divide uncontrollably. Right. There's another issue I want to ask you to think about before we call it a day. It's easy in this discussion when I talk about daughter cells dividing uncontrollably to think that that means as a person, children will divide uncontrollably. All right? I'm not passing, but I want to be clear, I'm not passing on a tumor. So the question I want to have you think about it, suppose you had a germline mutation. So suppose actually the mutation that led to uncontrolled cell growth was actually in one of the cells that gave rise to the sperm cell that conceived me, right? What would happen basically if you started as a zygote with a mutation in a growth-controlled gene? So think about it and talk to you. If the zygote started out with so you inherited cancer. So if the zygote started out with a mutation that caused it to divide uncontrollably, what would happen? So think about that and talk to your neighbor. So